Good morning, everyone. Welcome to MANP Connects. My name is Jennifer Hutchins. I'm the Executive Director of the Maine Association of Nonprofits. And this is one of the favorite parts of my job is in March of 2020, many of us went into lockdown because of the pandemic, and MANP decided the next month to start Friday morning coffee chats to build connection virtually with our colleagues who care about nonprofits and who work in volunteer support nonprofits across the state of Maine. And since then, we have just been so delighted, so delighted that so many of you are joining us for these meetings. Excuse me. First thing I want to do is thank our sponsors, Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Maine Biz. They help us make this program possible. And now I'm not gonna waste any more time. I want to start with, especially because then I could get a guest to start talking instead of me, is introduce you to the first person is going to be Cara Valentino. She's new to the Dempsey Center, and we've asked her to come this morning and chat with me for a few minutes about how things are going. Can you save me, Cara? Can you start talking?
Hi, good morning. I sure can. I know that feeling. There's nothing like it. Like you're on the screen and it just went down the wrong pipe. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm not sure if you know what the Dempsey Center is, but we are a nonprofit based in South Portland and Lewiston, Maine, in our physical locations. We offer integrative health services for anyone impacted by cancer. So that can include cancer patients, their loved ones, friends and family, their care partners, as we call caregivers, and the kiddos. We also have a dedicated children's program called the Healing Tree. And with all of that said, the services we provide are complementary therapies, including counseling, nutrition, and movement and fitness. So yoga, Tai Chi, which is very popular this summer. We offer touch therapies. So things like massage, acupuncture, and Reiki. And we offer comfort and well-being programs that include pet therapy, our Dempsey dogs, which is probably my favorite program, not that I'm biased, but we also offer wigs and wig styling, as well as comfort items for folks who are experiencing cancer. And we just opened in July our very first hospitality home on the east end of Portland. So folks traveling over 30 miles can stay overnight during the week for their treatments. And now we're working out transportation for them as well, so they don't even have to drive. So that's just a little bit of an overview.
Yeah, thank you, Cara. I really appreciate that because
It's Rylan.
With the Dempsey Center, I have been learning about the Dempsey Center for a few years now. But like many nonprofits in Maine, until you get a chance to actually sit down with someone and have them outline all the things they're doing, it's like you just don't realize it, right? And I never would have known that the Dempsey Center have programs in Portland. I always think of it as Lewiston focused. So right out the bat, it's so great to learn about this. I'd love to learn a little bit more about you, though. Can you tell us a little bit about how long you've been in the role and how you ended up doing being the ED at Dempsey Center?
Sure. I've been in the role about 9.5 months. I looked for a home in Maine for about 6 of those months. So if anyone else went through that experience, I am right there with you. And I came from strategy, leadership, and culture consulting. That's my background. I was with GE, then IBM, and then started as a partner in a small firm in Washington, D.C., where I focused on counterterrorism. So my last
Okay.
master's in counterterrorism.
Okay.
I think of cancer as a little bit of that. So it's really just helping people to live and learn and lead their best authentic lives. And so that's really the focus of the work that I've done. I found Dempsey because my family lives in York, Maine, my parents, and my parents knew what it was. I saw that they were hiring last year, and I have a background also for over 20 years of being a yoga, Pilates, and bar teacher on the side, as well as always working in a pro bono capacity with nonprofits. So the fact that it was integrative health, my sister's a holistic health professor, was something that highly, highly appealed to me, as well
Oh,
as
that's wow. Okay. Multi-talented. That's a
or very distractible, one way or the other way.
I'm curious though, if about your background with some of those practices. And how long have you been in the role at Dempsey at this point?
About 9.5 months.
9.5 months. Okay. I heard you say 9.5. I just couldn't remember if you started right away. Um, one of the things we've been talking about here at MAMP Connects and Maine at MAMP in general is the challenge around workforce, of course, right? Like that it's a national problem. It's definitely a problem in Maine, and then it's even more exacerbated for the nonprofit community because of the inequitable pay scales and that sort of thing. I just wondered, and one of the things we talked about is workplace culture and workplace wellness. And I just wondered if you have had a chance to bring some of your practice, yoga practice, Tai Chi type thing into your management of what I assume, Dempsey, you're responsible for managing a very large staff.
Yeah, we're quite small. We're going to reach about 50 this year. When I started, we were about 35. So but what you just outlined is so real. Trying to hire, and Christian, I just saw your note. Is I'd love to know if your sister's an acupuncturist at the Dempsey Center. If not, I'd love to talk to your sister. But that the hiring has been really hard for us because we're a nonprofit. We've been really successful recently in hiring LCSWs, which are our social workers who handle our one-on-one and support group counseling. We've also been hiring on the technical side because of our Dempsey Connects, our large virtual campus, where we offered, I think last year, over 300 programs with thousands of visits per year. So hiring that mix of skill set and then blending it all together to really bring everyone's unique personalities and skills forward to create the culture is our focus right now.
Hmm.
Make sense?
Oh yeah, completely. Um, I love in chat how we're making direct connections to things people need. That's what this is all about. So thank you for modeling that. So what else have you been thinking about? What are some of the other challenges and things or opportunities, things that you're grappling with as a new leader at the Dempsey Center? What's been top of mind for you?
Sure. And I'd love to hear from others on this topic at some point too. We're trying to reach everyone in the state of Maine who has a cancer impact. And to do that, we're thinking about how do we get to rural areas? How do we connect? How do we make sure there's broadband and infrastructure to support those online services? And then how do we physically get to all of those areas? So we're looking at things through the recent Senate moves around CDS. We put in an application for mobile units. So 2 mobile units. We're really revving up our work in connectivity with other like-minded centers. So Betsy Wright actually already runs our programming through a grant that we received to set up the equipment for Dempsey Connects. So it's things like that. We're able to give out digital tablets through the digital equity program across the state so that are cell enabled so individuals can reach us in those ways. So those are some of the pieces that we're grappling with is how do you get to everybody? And how do you do it in a way that works for them, meets them where they are? Because that's always our focus.
Hmm. Hmm. And so is that sort of at this point, is that the vision for you guys is to be focusing on that, what you just outlined?
Our actual vision for 2031 is that the work that we do becomes a part of the accepted standard of oncology care. And that's globally, because the work that we do where we support not only the patient, but their loved ones and their care partners is so important. We think illness is a shared experience. You can't love someone deeply who's suffering from an illness without also being impacted yourself. And that kind of holistic and integrative care is what we're seeking to spread worldwide.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's, I won't go down a rabbit hole, but I'll just say from personal experience that the impact of that touches me deeply. Just because, from my perspective, our society has not necessarily done a very good job of providing that holistic community care for this type of if we have loved ones who are suffering through illness or aging transitions, things like that. And so that's really inspiring. And I'm excited to watch the work that you guys are doing, Cara.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's in alignment. That's Patrick's vision, my boss. So that's really our goal.
Are we allowed to tease you about it being 1 degree of separation from Patrick Dempsey? I mean, come on, I know it's a little tacky of me to mention it, but.
No, I mean, one of my favorite things when I left DC was telling my old CEO, I got to go. McDreamy's my new boss. So it was,
Sorry, I just have to enjoy that for a minute. It's like, and I'm sure it's one of those things where people tease you about it and it might get a little old at some point, but anyway, good for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't think I'll ever get bored of that.
That's great. Cara, I'm really glad that we're meeting. I'm sorry that we're meeting virtually for the first time, but I will look forward to finding a time to connect with you in person. And thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody. I look forward to hearing from you.
Okay. The next person that I'd love to invite to our virtual stage is Kristina Powell, who I've been trying to connect with in person for a long time. Hi, Kristina. Kristina is the executive director of the Telling Room. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Finally,
No.
I'm meeting you. You're just too busy. No, it's not you. It's just the nature of the world. How are things going for you?
Things have been really wonderful. I'm still settling into my first year, almost done with the first year at the Telling Room, but it's been really joy-filled.
That's great. Tell it for the people on the call who may know, I am a resident of Portland and my background is with arts and economic development. And so I know the Telling Room pretty well, but I'm sure there are people on the call who don't. So do you want to talk just a minute about what you guys have been up to and maybe what your thinking is for the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Telling Room, we're a literary arts youth organization. We empower youth through writing and we share their voices with the world. So we work with youth ages 6 to 18, and we believe that writing helps build confidence and strengthen literacy skills. And we know that creative expression is a way that youth, as they become more confident, can better express themselves and then become change makers in the communities that they're in. And so this year actually was really exciting. It was after the COVID lockdown of the world, was when we reopened our studio, which is based in Portland. But then we also work in schools as far south as Kittery and up in the Mid-Coast Camden Rockland area. And so this year we weren't sure what it was going to look like when we reopened and returned to schools. We weren't sure if schools were going to have us back, but we're incredibly surprised and excited to have programs filled again back in the studio. We actually had to open second groups because they were so popular, and then we're back in schools at full capacity again too.
Wow, that's really exciting. And I can only imagine that has been a challenge that you would not necessarily have expected to. What was it like to become the ED in such a volatile time?
I think that I was able to build off of that really strong foundation that was put into place by the staff and the board and the previous executive director, Celine Kuhn, where programming moved fully remote. And so actually the new program that was started during that peak pandemic time was called Swarm and was virtual and was really highly successful, actually bringing in students and joining them together virtually from across the state. And so we knew that, and we still know that youth need us. And so there are ways which the staff are really innovative in figuring out still how can we meet that need. And so we knew that we could open and bring students in, but also still find ways to connect with them otherwise.
That's great. So can you tell me a little bit about you and how you ended up in this role and what inspired you to be part of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've actually worked my entire career in Maine nonprofits. So I went to Bowdoin, and then since then have worked at a variety of different nonprofits in Portland, as well as in Southern Maine. And so most recently I worked at Berwick Academy, and during that time was working on my MBA as well, leading fundraising efforts there. And part of my MBA project program was looking at my future career trajectory. And the telling room executive director position was what I visioned and wrote about how I would get that job. And so somewhat coincidentally then, as I was finishing my program, the position was open, and it wasn't my intention at the time to be looking, but I knew that I had to try then. The telling room has been an organization, we're now in our 18th year, but is one that I had heard about before, thinking about how they serve youth, and in that confidence strengthening mission that they have for youth. I also, worked in fundraising for a number of years recently, and was really drawn to, as organizations are consistently thinking about events and philanthropy, how do you reinvent yourselves? And so years ago, the telling room used to have a glitterati event and then moved to an event called Show and Tell. And I thought that really highlighted how they were thinking about going from donor-centric to mission-centric in their philanthropy practices, and is something that, continuously nonprofits need to be thinking about.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? We're definitely finding that people are reaching out to us with questions around how fundraising is shifting, and at MANP we have the same issues. There's both the impact that the changes in our community and the way we do business because of the pandemic is impacting fundraising, but also that idea of being mission-centric and client-centric, as opposed to, and thinking through what it means to apply an equity lens to our fundraising relationships. I just wondered if you could talk a little more about what does that mean to you to move from a more donor-centric fundraising platform to one that's more mission-focused?
Yeah, I think for us, one of the core components of our mission is that amplification of youth voices, and our promise to youth is that we will help share their voices with the world. So while youth are empowered to do that themselves, that we also do that through publications, through our website, through other ways that we are getting their voices out there. And so Show and Tell, or doing an event, is a really perfect example, perfect way for us to be able to do that. And so in Show and Tell, we have youth writers and authors from the telling room alongside sharing the stage, or the virtual stage, with professional published artists as well. And so that is able to also highlight mission, where youth can go from there, for people to be able to see, what we do, and also have youth voices leading. And so instead of maybe doing something that doesn't include the youth voice, which is so important, and we need to center that always at the telling room, we're able to include that as part of the program and let it guide the way.
And have you found that donors have been responsive to that? Has that been an effective strategy for the telling room?
It's definitely been effective. I think, one of the balances then that we have, right, is, how do you also protect your youth in that sort of a space, right? And so I think we have really open conversations with our alumni, and thinking about who those youth are who are going to be a part of that program, with family members as well, to really talk about intention and for them to be thought partners in the process too.
Oh, great. What are some of the other things that you're grappling with as the leader of a cultural nonprofit? What are some of what's top of mind for you? Do you have anything out there that you're questioning? And I'm just kind of curious. This is an opportunity for you to say whatever's on your mind, and maybe there's somebody out there in the community who would want to weigh in and give you a thought or two, or a resource.
Yeah, so I think, probably as all of us as nonprofit leaders are thinking about the long-term impact of COVID on our organizations, two areas for us specifically are certainly around education and both the logistics and resources for our staff in terms of energy and time, the unknown still of being in a pandemic, specifically for our teaching staff, thinking about the experience of educators in schools, the nature to have hybrid as well as be teaching live in classrooms. I think, we're thinking a lot and eager to connect with other education partners too about, we know that there's an increased social emotional need for youth right now and that youth are struggling. And that's similarly then educators are too. And so how can we support and meet the need, but also, take care of ourselves at the same time?
Well, there's a direct connection to what Cara was saying at the Dempsey Center, right? This idea that we need to be building communities where we're taking care of ourselves and taking care of each other in fresh and innovative ways. So it is, if there's anything that I do think maybe the pandemic has forced us into realizing is that we can't just keep going at the pace that we're going and expect to have the same result, right? That we really need to start thinking through how we take care of each other. And so in any case, well, is there anything else you'd like to share with all of us this morning? And I'm really looking forward to, I hope that you're reading some of the chat comments because people are appreciating your comments this morning. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we sign off?
No, I think one other thing I'll just say that we've been thinking about is around social justice and equity. And, I know that it's something that all of us are thinking about now, but I'd also be open to thought partners around, we're really thinking about community-centric fundraising principles as well. And given the current economic landscape of this upcoming year or next few years, really trying to think about how we can advance those principles and be working in collaboration with other organizations to bring about change. And that includes the philanthropic space too, and be partners in that work, given what this upcoming year might look like as well.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Community-centric fundraising, there is a group in Maine that is exploring that particular phrase and topic. And I know that our partners at the Maine Philanthropy Center have been focused on trying to get resources out there. So that's really, thank you for underscoring that, Kristina. That's definitely something that organizations like MANP and MPC want to be making sure. And thank you, Rylan has pointed out a great place to start. Sarah, thank you from Maine Philanthropy Center. Shout out to our partner. Exactly. See, I told you, with MANP Connects, I can just say things and they appear in chat. Thank you, Sarah. So thanks for bringing that up, Kristina. I appreciate that. And it is good to meet you. I'm determined to meet you in person soon.
Yeah, I am as well.
And just so everybody knows, we're literally like only a couple of blocks away from each other. But anyway, that's the life of a nonprofit executive director, right? Anyway, great to see you. Thanks for being here. I'm going to move on to our third executive director. Jessica Williams is a first-time executive director, and she's working with WindowDressers. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, how are you,
you?
Jennifer? Good, how are you, Jennifer?
Good. Would you introduce yourself to the group and talk a little bit about WindowDressers? I suspect there are some people in the room who are not familiar with your work yet.
Sure, yeah. So my name is Jessica Williams. I am the very new executive director for WindowDressers. So we are a small volunteer-driven organization, and we work with community groups to build low-cost insulating window inserts that function as custom interior mounted storm windows. So our very small staff supplies, trains, and supports teams of community volunteers as they build these inserts. So again, we're a very small staff. We've got myself as the new executive director. I was promoted from program manager, which we have, we had two, and now we have one. So we're only a staff of two right now. We also hire seasonal production staff, so a production manager for our production facility in Searsmont, Maine. So that's the only physical location that we have. Otherwise, we're all remote and just working with volunteers across Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts. So,
Oh my gosh, I think I just realized that I didn't realize you were multi-state.
yeah, so that we had our first community build in Vermont in 2019, I think, 2018. And then we had a couple the following year, and then obviously we didn't have anything during COVID. Last year we had 16 community builds in Vermont, one in New Hampshire. We had, I think, close to 30 in Maine. And then this year we've got 23 in Vermont, 2 in New Hampshire, 1 in Massachusetts, and around 20 in Maine. So it's sort of always shifting, because we are working with volunteers.
Wow. Yeah. So how many volunteers do you manage?
Well, directly, we work directly working with volunteers. Well, there are about 1,500 volunteers that are involved with WindowDressers in any given year, but we're directly working with maybe 80 to 100 directly. So those are the volunteer leaders that actually plan and organize and run the community builds in their communities, and then they go out and they recruit volunteers themselves to help them with their community builds. They're going out and selling the inserts, and everybody who receives the inserts is expected to come in and help build them. So it's a real community building effort, as well as an energy efficiency effort as well.
That's a lot of people you're managing.
It is a lot, but it's, they're volunteers, so they want to be there. And they're all really pretty motivated, and I'm always humbled by the amount of work and energy and care that they bring to the work. It's really it's kind of mind-blowing that we are such a small staff, and yet we have sort of this much bigger impact.
Well, and, one of the things I just want to highlight, I think when you and I talked a couple of weeks ago, I wanted to make this point. We see at MANP, the vast majority of our nonprofits in Maine are very small when it comes to organizational size and staff capacity and organizational budget. And so I just, first of all, I want to underscore, and I'm going to ask people in chat to just give a shout out to people like Jessica, who are running these nonprofits with very small paid staff numbers and getting so much accomplished. You are exactly, but we're mighty. Jen McAdoo is another one who runs a program here in Portland, and she does a very similar type project. You're not alone, Jessica, and it's hard. It is hard to herd all those cats. And so I just want to give a shout out, because you are not alone. Thanks everybody for giving a little encouragement to Jessica. What are some of the things that are top of mind for you? Are there things that you, similar to what Cara and Kristina have shared, what are some of the things that you're noticing from your seat? It's cute how you have your headphones on in your seat. It's like, from your vantage point out there, what are you seeing? What are you grappling with? What are some of the things that you are thinking about that you would like to share with some other people who are in similar positions?
Sure, yeah. So, because I'm so new to the position and I've never been in an executive director role before, I'm just, it's sort of the fire hose of information and learning right now. But I think recently, so we're looking to replace my position. So we're in the process of hiring for a program manager, but we're also looking for our production manager. So the person who staffs our production facility during the community build season, which is during the fall, roughly from September through December. So that's a seasonal position, and it's been really challenging to find somebody to fill that job, but it's an extremely critical position for us. If we don't have somebody up at our facility cutting the wood and getting all the supplies ready for all the teams, then we're really in a bit of a pickle. So that's one thing for sure that we're struggling with. But also because we are volunteer driven, and we essentially, we can only serve communities where we have volunteer leadership groups. So groups that are willing to organize and take on the work involved in planning and executing the community build. So that's a challenge that we face. So, there are a lot of requests for inserts that we get from people in communities where we don't have community builds. And so it's a challenge to find teams of people who are willing to take on this 6 to 9 month commitment of doing the work. And there is also, so in Maine, for example, we've been around for about 10 years. So what we're seeing is sort of some turnover in our volunteer groups, or people are aging out of the program. They've just done it for a number of years and they're tired and they want to do something else. And so the challenge with that is finding people who have the time to dedicate to running the community build. And a lot of those folks are retirees, or on the other end of the spectrum, sort of younger, maybe don't have families and have a little bit of extra time to do the work involved. So rebuilding our program in Maine is a focus that we're a focus for us now. So it's really spending a lot of time connecting with other organizations, other community organizations, energy committees, climate action committees, to try to get people involved and take on the work. But it's definitely a challenge.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I'm going to offer that people maybe, and then for the next few minutes, if they have any ideas about community organizations that might be good connections for you in Maine, I ask people to message you directly with some ideas. Thank you for your time, Jessica. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to having a chance to meet you in person sometime.
Thanks for having me, Jennifer. I look forward to meeting you too.
Yeah. Okay. Take care.
Thanks. You too.
Okay, everybody, we have Kate Stookey is my fourth executive director who's going to join me on the virtual screen. Hi, Kate. How are you?
I am well. How are you, Jennifer?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. I'm not going to lie. I'm glad it's Friday. I was on vacation last week in shout out to my favorite county in Maine, Washington County. I was in Eastport and had an opportunity to see the Tides Institute that was started by Hugh French. And anyway, big shout out there. But it was a family trip that I am now recovering from, and I need a vacation.
I was in Washington County this week, actually.
Oh, you were?
For the first few days of the week. Yeah, I was in Eastport. I was in Machias. I was all over the county. It's beautiful up there.
Oh my gosh, it is so special up there. Yeah. Oh yes, we're missing the Wild Blueberry Festival in Machias. Thank you, Tanya. It's true. But anyway, for those of you who have not taken a road trip to Washington County, put it on your bucket list, or
Yes.
short-term bucket list, right?
Yeah.
But that it's not about Machias, it's all about Kate and your new role. So Kate, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to this new role at Coastal Heritage Trust.
So I grew up in Maine. I grew up in Blue Hill, and I spent
Lucky you. That's another beautiful place.
it is, and I married a man from Penobscot. So
wow.
It was inevitable that we were going to wind up back in Maine. My professional career took me out of the state and out of the country for a while, but my love has always been Maine and always the outdoors. I spent most of my youth, as I think probably many of us growing up in Maine did, outside. on the water, in the woods, camping, hiking, and the opportunity to come back in this role and give back to this amazing place we all call home is really special.
So like some of our your fellow executive directors, what's top of mind for you? What are you guys working on, or what are you grappling with? What are some of the things that you guys, how you're stretching yourselves these days?
Well, the pandemic brought a whole new group of people outside. And it's a good problem to have, right? I think this is true for the land trust community across the state. There are 84 local land trusts in Maine, and we're a statewide land trust, but we get together a lot and we talk a lot, and we're super happy to see all of these people coming outside, people who maybe haven't been outside before, but it does put additional pressure on the land that we manage. And that's one of the things that we're trying to figure out. How do we make sure that the public land that we have is available for people and remains, the trails remain intact, and the experience remains a good one for people who work here and live here and play here. And the pressure on coastal communities as well, and waterfront is another piece of it. Just making sure that people have access, the clammers, the lobstermen, the recreational activities that happen on the waterfront, making sure that there is still public access as we see increased development.
Oh, I'm afraid, Kate, we may have lost your connection, unfortunately.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. The other thing you might want to do is try, if it maybe turn off your video and you could talk to it. That might help a little bit.
Oh, it's strange. I'm showing full.
You're okay now. Let's keep.
I?
We can
Okay.
keep going now. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apologies.
No, that's okay. So pressure on the continue. We're good.
Well, so that's one piece of it. Also, just keeping up with the pace of land acquisition in the state is tough because land is going. I mean, it used to take, one of my friends took them 10 years to sell their house up here, and now there's not anything available, and prices are going up, and our part of our role is really to conserve and preserve the land along the coast and the riparian waterways, to make sure that we're keeping this beautiful state healthy, open, working, and beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely noticed that up in where we were in Lubec, and so grateful for some of the land trust work that is happening up in that community. That is, my family was able to benefit from a preserved cove. But do you guys talk about a little bit of that tension between it is good that people are getting outside, and also that feeling of how much traffic can our land handle?
Absolutely. And part of our conversation has been around identifying which of our preserves are really need to be protected. Some of them are really fragile ecologically, and we want to make sure that we are helping the species and the land and the habitat remain intact. And then there are other preserves that we have where there are miles of trails and parking lots and structures, picnic tables and benches that people can use. So figuring out the right balance, right? I mean, some of our preserves are smaller, they're hidden in neighborhoods, and the last thing you want are lines of cars blocking driveways and streets. So how do we work together with the communities and with the public who uses the land to figure out a way to create that balance? But there certainly is, it's an art form.
Yeah. Well, and one of the reasons why I was excited to take a position at the Maine Association of Nonprofits is because your organization is example, but everyone who's been on the call is an example of what I think Maine is so we are at the size where we have the opportunity to work together collaboratively to solve some of these bigger problems. And your organization is that understanding how we can balance the tension of of a growing population on this earth with our precious natural resources. You guys are right there at that opportunity, and it's both. I'm sure sometimes you want to run for the hills and rip your hair out, but at the same time, it's such critical work. And so it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you. I wish I could talk to each of you for the whole time, but we're trying to give everybody here at MANP Connects an opportunity to meet your colleagues across the state and to just see, I mean, so what did we just hear from? It's a group that's taking care of some of our most vulnerable citizens with health crises through Cara's work, and then Kristina's work, working with amplifying diverse voices at youth, and Jessica, WindowDressers and energy efficient homes for folks, and then you, Kate, and all the work you guys are doing to protect our natural resources. Talking with people like you is what gives me hope. And I hope that MANP is providing you with some support so that you feel like you're not alone out there.
You do, definitely. And, I wanted to touch on something that I heard Deb from the Maine Community Foundation say in last month's MANP Connects about the, cross-sector vision and collaboration. And I think that's really true. As with Maine Coast Heritage Trust and our statewide role, I am really interested in speaking with other executive directors and leaders of other statewide organizations across sectors to see how we can collaborate and find, there's a Venn diagram in there somewhere, and there is opportunity for us, I think, to work together to solve our collective issues in a way that will really help position Maine for the future that's coming.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. You are sending me off with a lot of inspiration and hope. And so thank you so much for your time, Kate. And I look forward to meeting you in person sometime too. I'm gonna have to get out on the road starting next week or something. I'm doing college visits with my daughter. Maybe I can blend it all together.
Well, we've got 4 offices up and down the coast. If you want to stop in, we could collaborate. I can take you out for a walk.
Great. Okay, great. Well, take a look in the chat, because there are some people that are already reaching out and inviting some connection. And I'm going to close this off, folks, because we try to stick to our time. Next month, thank you for coming this morning. Next month, just hold on, important news. Next month, we're going to be co-hosting a session on getting out the vote. We're going to be co-hosting that with our friends at Maine Philanthropy Center. And we're going to be hearing from funders on where they come into play and hear about some organizations and how they're engaging activities around getting out the vote. Because nonprofits can advocate and they can do certain activities around encouraging civic engagement with regards to our elected officials. And we're going to be focusing on that at our September 16th MANP Connects. So don't forget to join us. And when you get a chance to thank anybody at Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare or Maine Biz, please tell them how much you love MANP Connects and thank them for their support. I love this. I love this. I am ready to take on supporting Maine communities. How about you? I hope you feel more supported. Off you go into a wonderful August. Don't go too fast there, Jen. August weekend in Maine. Good to see you all. Take care. Bye.